Welcome to coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. I'm Steve Erickson along with the rest of our crew here tonight. We're here to bring you coverage of the midterm election. Quite steady out at the polls today from what I understand. Quite a bit of interest in this election. Of course, it's not a presidential year, but we have the governor up for election and several other seats of interest. So we'll get some of those numbers here tonight. Of course, we're following our local races as well. 3 seats on the Coon Rapids City Council are up for election, and one of those, actually we'll start with the mayor's race here. Sharon Compton versus incumbent Mayor Jerry Cook. Obviously we don't have any numbers in yet because the polls just closed, but these are the races we will be covering here tonight. In Ward 3 for council, it's Pablo Hernandez Jr. versus Sean Novak. And in Ward 5, this is an interesting race because Brad Johnson is the current incumbent in that race. He's running for county attorney, so this is an open seat. Jonathan Housechild versus Brian Armstrong. Moving on to the county races now. In county commissioner, all 7 districts are up because of redistricting. Incumbent Matt Look there. Kevin Landry is on the ballot, but he actually withdrew from the election, but his name is on the ballot still. So Matt Look looking for another term there. In District 2, it's Julie Brosted. She is running unopposed. In District 3, it's Cindy Hansen and Jeff Reinert. Reinert, the incumbent there. In District 4, Scott Schulte is the incumbent there versus Raymond Zoran. You'll notice he was District 7, but again, due to redistricting, some of those district numbers got shuffled, so he is now representing District 4. Moving to District 5, it's Tracy Stromback versus incumbent Mike Gamache. In District 6, it's David Clark versus Julie Jepson. And in District 7, Mandy Meisner versus Joseph Sturdivant. We do not have a picture of him, but those are the 2 squaring off in that race. We have 2 interesting races in the county also that we're watching tonight. Anoka County Sheriff, both the incumbent sheriff and incumbent county attorney are not running. So Brad Wise, who's the former Coon Rapids police chief, is squaring off against Paul Lensmeyer, who's a lieutenant or commander at the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. So we'll watch that race here tonight. And in the Anoka County Attorney, again, I mentioned Brad Johnson, a current Coon Rapids City Council member, is vying for the Anoka County Attorney space there against Wade Kish, who is currently in that office. As far as working in that office, I should say, not as the county attorney. Moving on to the state races, our state senator in District 35, again, due to redistricting, there's been some shuffling here. Republican Jim Abler is squaring off against Carrie Rayrauer, who is currently on the Coon Rapids City Council. And in state representative, District 35A, it's John Heinrich, the Republican there, versus Zach Stevenson. Both are incumbents. And again, due to redistricting, they are squaring off in this race tonight. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Again, here in District 35B for state representative, it's Polly Madison against Jerry Newton, the Democrat there. Of course, there's state races of interest. Governor Tim Walz being challenged by Republican Scott Jensen. So we'll show you some of those tonight. Attorney General there, Keith Ellison, the incumbent there, against Jim Schultz. We also have the Secretary of State incumbent Steve Simon there, is being challenged by Kim Crockett. And then State Auditor, it's Julie Blaha, who is the incumbent there, versus Republican Ryan Wilson. And in U.S. Representative, in District 3, this is our representative in Congress. It's Dean Phillips, the Democrat there, versus Tom Wheeler. So those are some of the races we will be following here tonight at CTN. We're going to head over now to Jennifer Anderson, who's going to join our coverage. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thanks, Steve. And of course, before we can have results, we need voters to go to the polls. It sounds as though across the state there was high voter turnout for a midterm election, possibly record-breaking. It looks like numbers well over 500,000 across the state. And I can say here, in the city of Coon Rapids, we had busy polls all throughout the city, and early voting was also quite busy. We had voters coming in, absentee voting in person, and direct balloting throughout September and November, which kept our polls here at City Hall quite busy for early voting as well. To get a sense of what was happening out across the community today, we sent our Joel Sipper out to the polls, and he took a little check on the crowds.
Hello. Your ballot has two sides.
Here in Ward Ford at the United Methodist Church, many Coon Rapids citizens are out in full force exercising their right to vote. And quite simply, a right these citizens do not take lightly.
It's a civic duty that a lot of people around the world don't have, and we've got to do our part.
I've always been raised that it was very important to have your voice heard.
With so much at stake on this year's ballot, both statewide and in the city of Coon Rapids, not only is the present on some voters' minds, but also the future.
I'm always mindful of every election to make sure I vote, make sure I get my concerns out, and pray for change.
In political times like these, it may be hard to find something most voters can agree upon, but one area for sure is to protect citizens' rights to have their voices heard.
I really want to impress upon my children, impress upon the future of our country, that it's important if you understand issues and try to have some foresight, insight, sight about what's going on, and to be active in that process. And also it's important to me that we save the right to vote for all citizens.
Extremely important, and it's extremely important to keep it simple and easy as well. Like I thank them for keeping it easy.
Reporting for CTN's election coverage, I'm Joel Sipper.
Thanks, Joel. And Steve, as we said, it was busy. People were there really invested in trying to make a decision and impact the future. And as some of them mentioned, they're trying to leave that legacy for the younger generations as well. So it is great, I know, here at City Hall and for our city clerk to be busy, because that means a lot of people are participating in the process.
For sure. That was a big thing we heard as far as issues that stand out here. Obviously, the economy, inflation, hitting hard, and also women's reproductive rights on the national levels. A lot of big issues that folks are having to decide on who they want the candidates to represent them in the next 2 years.
And with a large turnout, it is going to be interesting to see in a midterm election year how that plays out. Obviously, a lot of divisiveness across the state. So it'll be fascinating to see with a large number of voters what that means and how that plays out on the statewide scale, but also, you know, here at home in Coon Rapids.
Yeah, and I know you went out to vote today. I did as well. Did you notice anything different at your polling location today than usual?
No, actually, I felt mine was quiet. I went at sort of a middle of the day kind of time when I didn't expect it to be busy, and I had my kids in tow, which was great to let them feel like they were participating in the process as well. So they were very chatty and involved. So you know, I couldn't take in too much beyond what the kiddos were doing, but you know, it all moved pretty smoothly where I was today.
Yeah, I've already forgotten, because I'm getting old, what number I was when I stuck my ballot in the machine, but there were a couple hundred people that had voted by the time I went to my poll at about 2:15 or so, but it was steady busy, it seemed there. They actually had someone at the door this year. I don't know if this is new. Maybe we can ask the city clerk later. That was actually checking to see if I was registered to vote at that poll before I moved on to where I checked in to get my ballot. And I don't know if they put that in place with redistricting. People might have been showing up at the wrong polls, but I was curious of that.
I thought the stations, I had a similar experience, and it moved so smoothly because of it. You know, you sort of spread out the lines and the waiting, and you know, you give your name, okay, you're registered, go here or there, and it all moved really quickly where I was. Hopefully most voters experienced in our community that same ease of being able to go and exercise their right to vote.
Yeah, it was a pretty smooth process, so always good when that happens. All right, well, we'll check back in with you in a little bit. Jennifer will be interviewing our city council winners once we know those here tonight. What we're going to do now is head over to sort of the star of the show on Election Day, City Clerk Joan Lensmeyer, who's joining us from Coon Rapids City Hall. Hey, Joan, how's it going?
Fine, thank you, Steve.
All right, it's been a busy day. I know you've been here probably before the sun came up.
That is correct. We started about 5:45 this morning.
All right. So tell us what's going on at the polls now. 8 o'clock, polls closed. You know, I obviously understand if people are in line still, they can vote, correct?
That is correct. So our head judge will, as soon as 8 o'clock rolls around, go out and announce that the polls are closed, and anyone in line will be allowed to vote. Once the final voter is through, then they will go grab their close the polls checklist and run through the procedures as we've outlined and trained them to do. And as soon as they get through that checklist, they will modem the results. So we'll be anxiously awaiting those, and it will be live on the Secretary of State's webpage very shortly after it goes through the modem. So.
All right. So the big question you probably get, or everyone gets, is when will we have some results?
All right, well, don't hold me to it, but I suspect we'll start seeing modem results by 8:30, 8:40ish.
Okay. All right. We won't hold you to it. I know there's quite a few
Best
voters
guess.
today, so it could take a little while. Do they talk about the absentee ballot process. Do they run those at the polls, or do all those go to the county?
Actually, the way it's done now is those are run by the county, and once the polls closed, the county has a team of election judges. They're actively working to get that ready to go so that those numbers, those absentee numbers, will join the polling location numbers, and then that will go to the Secretary of State's website with the total number that are reporting for that precinct.
Okay. And then the folks that voted early, because folks as of November 1st could come to City Hall and do direct balloting, put their ballot right into the machine. How are those votes tabulated or separated?
That machine the results were modem to the county at the close yesterday of business, and then they're held. And now that it's past 8 o'clock on election day, those are added to the totals.
Okay. And I know the county was busy. I was up at the courthouse last Thursday. They were busy in the foyer doing all the absentee ballots. So anything they have left to process is basically any of the stuff that came in by 3 p.m. today?
That's right. We had a deadline of 3 p.m. today. Once we hit that 3 p.m. deadline, all clerks in the county drove our absentee ballots that were dropped here to the county, to the government center, and those were opened and put into the machine.
All right. How was absentee voting this year compared to 4 years ago? Do you have a sense of that yet?
I do not, unfortunately. We did vote a fairly good number of folks here at City Hall, so we'll have that soon, just not quite yet.
All right. Any issues out there in Coon Rapids today that you're aware of, or did everything go pretty smoothly?
It went very smoothly, Steve. I feel blessed to be in a community where our voters turn out for us, and to have a team of election judges. We had over 200 people working the polling locations in 22 different spots. Everybody came to work. Everybody worked hard today, and we had a great election day. So I feel very thankful for that.
Yeah, and obviously you couldn't do this all, obviously your work and you're a deputy clerk, but without all of the election judges.
Truly, a big thank you to them for serving their community in this capacity. It is a tireless, thankless job, and we appreciate them so much for doing it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us. I know you probably have some other stuff to be doing there, so we'll
I've got
let you
some
go.
things to do so that I can get you some results.
All right. Well, we appreciate that, and we might
Thank
check
you.
back in with you a little bit later on tonight.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Joan. Joan Lensmeyer, City Clerk for Coon Rapids there with kind of an update on how things went. Sounds like pretty smoothly at the polls today, and now they're just waiting for all those tallies to come in. We're waiting as well, and as soon as we have some of those results, we will bring them to you. It is now, about 8:15? We're planning to come back here at 8:30 with some more coverage, and then in between we will cycle any of the results as they come in. You're watching live coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. I'm Steve Erickson. We're standing by with results here, and they're still trickling in here. No local results yet. There are some starting to come in for the state races that you saw in between us coming on here, but we'll continue to get more of those as they come in and bring them to you. Again, with redistricting, there are some change-ups in some of the state rep races and the districts and the county commissioners. So a little bit of an interesting election always after redistricting takes place, which follows the census, which obviously is done every 10 years. So we'll get to some more of those results. Like we said, obviously absentee voting has become a big thing and people mailing in those votes. All those results go up to the Anoka County Government Center. We sent Steve Antis, our reporter, up there to check in what was happening up there tonight at the Anoka County Government Center. Steve?
And we're out here at the Anoka County Government Center, where we're now joined by the Anoka County Elections Manager, Tom Hunt. Tom, how have things been going today here?
It's been a very good night. We've had a good turnout so far, and I would say it's you know, we've seen some of the normal things that come up on election day, but so far so good. We've had a great turnout, like I said, and yeah, we're having a good night.
So any issues of note that happened today here?
No real issues. I mean, most of it is just the standard stuff that we see, which is with the setup of the polling location, make sure everything is online and whatnot. But beyond that, I mean, those are the majority of the concerns that we've been seeing.
So now that the polls are closed, what happens next?
So after this, we will start getting our results in from the polling locations, and we will take that and combine it with the results that we are getting from the scanning that we've been doing of the absentee ballots that have come in early. So, yep, after the close of polls, we combine those, and then we get those uploaded to the Secretary of State's office for everyone to see.
And as far as those absentee ballots, have we seen a greater number of people voting absentee this year than we did 2 years ago?
So 2 years ago with COVID and whatnot, we had an astounding amount of absentee ballots. So I would say that this year is actually, it's gone right back to where we were at in about 2018. So the last midterm election, we're at almost the same levels that we were at back then.
So we had some rain today. Do you think that the weather had any effect on voter turnout?
I wouldn't say that it has. I'd say so far it's looking like we're pretty much in line with the last midterm. So apples to apples, I think it's been very similar. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily had an effect on turnout.
And as far as the next steps, county canvassing meeting, do you have that all planned out?
We do. So yes, our canvassing board will be meeting on next Tuesday, the 15th. That will take place in the morning here at the Government Center. And then following that, on Monday the 21st, we will have our post-election review, which is where we do a small hand count of some randomly selected precincts here at the Government Center. And those are our two big post-election events that are coming up.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, we are here with the County Elections Manager, Tom Hunt.
All right, Steve, thank you. A nice little update from the Anoka County Government Center, where they are busy tonight getting all the results through and finishing up that work to get us the numbers tonight. So as soon as we have more of those, we will get you those. One of the key races we're following here in the county tonight is that of the Anoka County Sheriff. This pits two veteran law enforcement officers against one another. The current sheriff, James Stewart, is retiring, which leaves that office open. Former Coon Rapids Police Chief Brad Wise is facing off against Division Commander Paul Lensmeyer. He's a division commander currently with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. We are going to find both men tonight, and we had an interview just a short time ago with Paul Lensmeyer. Let's hear that.
Thank you very much, Steve. We're out here at Depot Brady's in Andover, being joined by Paul Lensmeyer, candidate for Anoka County Sheriff. And Paul, all of the campaigning is over now. What does it feel like to finally get to this day?
Well, it's been a hard push for 11 months, and there's a little bit of ease at this point, but the polls just closed minutes ago, so we're hitting refresh on the Secretary of State's website, and we're excited to see the numbers come in.
And you've got a lot of family and friends out here today?
We do. We had a great team throughout the last 11 months, and they wanted to watch the numbers come in with us today.
Okay, and what was the main strategy of your campaign that you went with this year?
Our main strategy was connecting with people. We were very active in parades and community events and just getting after those different activities and just communicating with the public, introducing myself and getting to know Anoka County.
Okay, and as you got out on the campaign trail and got a chance to meet voters and kind of interact with people, what kind of things were they telling you?
Well, there's a deep concern over public safety, and obviously that's a hot ticket item this election season, and that's my focus. And so reassuring them that I will be a sheriff of law and order, and we will keep Anoka County safe.
And as you listened to what they had to say, did you change anything, your approach to your campaign?
You know, I didn't have to. I had a, we with the Sheriff's Office work very closely with the community already, so I had a pretty good pulse on the community. It just was reaffirming what I thought the concerns were.
Okay, and of course you got the support of the sheriff here, James Stewart.
I did, yep. I was very fortunate to earn the endorsement of the sheriff.
So how important is an endorsement like that for you?
Well, it's very important. For the current sheriff, being a 3-term sheriff, the last 2 terms he was unopposed. He has the trust of the community, and for him to put the trust in me, it means a great deal. I'm very honored.
And of course, your opponent, Brad Wise, the former Coon Rapids police chief, he was very close to you in the primary election, but there's still roughly over 3,000 votes, so tonight we'll find out the results of that. But what do you think your edge would be over having Brad Wise?
Well, it's going to be a close race. We knew that coming into the primary. He's a qualified candidate. He was very well liked in Coon Rapids. I have the experience of being with the Sheriff's Office for over 26 years. I'm hoping that is the selling point for Anoka County.
All right, well, again, all the best to you tonight. Thank you so much. That was Paul Lensmeyer, candidate for Anoka County Sheriff. We're going to send it back to the studio.
All right, Steve, thank you. We are in the process. Steve is in the process of going to interview Brad Wise. Now we'll bring that to you as soon as we have it. Again, 2 veteran officers squaring off for that sheriff's race. It will be interesting. We expect it to be pretty close. So we'll see as those numbers come here tonight as well, who winds up being victorious in that race. We are still waiting for a lot of the numbers to come in locally. We don't really have anything at this point. Again, we are cycling those numbers in between our cut-ins here. So anytime we do have results, those will be on your screen here tonight. So stay tuned to that. And we will cut in again probably at the top of the hour here at 9 o'clock. So for now, I'm Steve Erickson. You're watching continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. We are starting like a broken record a little for the moment, but we're still waiting for the local results to come in. We had hoped we might have some by now, but obviously it's a pretty fluid live situation. So as soon as we have some of those numbers in, we will bring them to you. Obviously, we have 3 city council seats on the ballot, Mayor, Ward 3, and Ward 5. So we're wanting to bring those to you tonight, along with the winners of those 3 races. We're also following county commissioner races, the Anoka County Attorney race, several others. Also, the Anoka County Sheriff race, which we just heard from Paul Lensmeyer. He's one of the 2 candidates vying for that open seat with the retirement of James Stewart. Paul Lensmeyer is a division commander with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office currently, and he is against former Coon Rapids Police Chief Brad Wise. So 2 veteran law enforcement officers there vying for the top job here in Anoka County. Our CTN Steve Antis recently talked to Brad Wise, and he joins us now with more. Steve?
All right, thank you so much. We're out here at Kendall's, where we're joined now by Brad Wise, the Anoka County Sheriff candidate, and the campaigning is all done now. And how are you feeling?
Well, actually relieved is my primary feeling. It's been a lot of stress since July 1st, a lot of work throughout the race itself, and that it's finally over, I get a sense of relief. I'm going to sit back and enjoy tonight with my supporters, and we'll see the results come in.
And as far as the focus of your campaign, what were you really running on out there for the sheriff's position?
I would say I was running on culture, really. I had such a great organization at Coon Rapids Police. We did great work for the citizens. I'm very proud of what we achieved for Coon Rapids. We had low crime. We had officers that loved their jobs. We had citizens that really strongly supported the police department, and we felt that every day. And it's that kind of culture that comes with me, and that really will be my focus going forward, because that kind of culture provides the best service for Anoka County residents.
And on the campaign trail, you got a chance to meet a lot of folks. What were you hearing from the voters out there?
Well, for sure, there's a lot of concern over crime rates and how, say, other issues in the cities are affecting us, carjackings, really specific stuff in terms of crime. And really, they just want to have a sense, I think residents want to have a sense that they got good leadership coming into the sheriff's office, and that they can have confidence if they call 911, they're going to be served with their best interests in mind.
As far as the things that you were being told by the voters, did that change anything as far as how you were approaching the campaign?
I don't think so. So it's, 11 years as police chief taught me a lot, and I think I have a pretty good sense of what the citizens or what voters are wanting in general from law enforcement. So I had a clear sense of that from the very beginning, and it was really, I know how to deliver what I want to deliver for the residents of Anoka County, and I think that had been our message all along, and it resonated with people, I think.
Again, why do you want to have the job as Anoka County Sheriff?
It is slightly different than being a police chief, not least of which is that you get more of an opportunity as sheriff to influence world events, and I mean especially in the political realm. There's a lot of elected officials that have an interest in what's going on in law enforcement, and they need good advisors. And I'm looking forward to the idea that elected representatives in the legislature, for instance, or city councils, they'll use me as a resource as they're considering laws moving forward. So that really is one of the things that really is the central appeal of the sheriff's office.
Well, again, we will let you see the results coming in here as we are waiting live to find those results. And thank you so much for joining us, Brad Wise, Anoka County Sheriff candidate, and we're going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Steve, thank you. So there we have it again, County Sheriff for one of the candidates there, Brad Wise, the former Coon Rapids Police Chief. We heard from Paul Lensmeyer a short time ago up at his campaign party going on in Andover, and now both candidates just sit and wait like the rest of us. Obviously, they might have a little more at stake than we do, but be interesting to see some results as they start coming in. That is expected to be a close race here tonight. Well, again, we are still waiting from the results. Let's run through now what we're covering here tonight and some of those numbers. For the Coon Rapids mayor race, it's incumbent Jerry Cook facing off against challenger Sharon Compton. Again, no precincts reporting as of this moment. In Ward 3, it's Pablo Hernandez Jr. who was appointed to his seat. If he wins tonight, this would be his first full term as the Ward 3 representative. He is squaring off against Sean Novak. And again, no precincts reporting there. Turning to Ward 5, that is an open seat there. Maybe we'll get to that one. Let's move to Anoka County Commissioner in District 1, Matt Look. His challenger, Kevin Landry, has withdrawn from the race, but his name is still on the ballot tonight. So Matt Look looking to get another term there on the Anoka County Board. Now here's that Ward 5 City Council seat. That is an open seat with Brad Johnson running for County Attorney tonight. It is Brian Armstrong versus Jonathan Housechild. Again, no precincts reporting there. Moving to the District 2 seat on the Anoka County Board, Julie Brostad, who is the incumbent there, is running unopposed in that race. Moving to County Commissioner in District 3, Jeff Reinert, the incumbent there, is squaring off against Cindy Hansen. Again, no precincts reporting there. In County Commissioner for District 4, incumbent Scott Schulte against Raymond Zurin. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but if you're just joining us, Schulte used to represent District 7. He is now District 4, following redistricting, following the census. The numbers are a little bit different there for the districts. But again, he is running again in County Commissioner for District 5. Mike Gamache, the incumbent there, facing off against Tracy Strombeck. Moving to District 6, it's Julie Jepson versus David Clark. No precincts, again, reporting there. And on to District 7, incumbent Mandy Meisner, facing off against Joseph Sturdivant. And again, no precincts reporting there as well. We just heard from both men a short time ago. Again, Brad Wise versus Paul Lensmeyer for the Anoka County Sheriff seat. No precincts reporting there. And moving on to Anoka County Attorney, it's Wade Kish, who is currently works in that office, squaring off against City Council member from Coon Rapids, Brad Johnson. No votes reporting there as of this moment. Moving on to our state Senate race in District 35, it is Republican Jim Habler versus Democrat Carrie Rayrauer. No precincts reporting there. On to state representative in District 35A. Both of these men are incumbents, but are squaring off against each other due to redistricting. Republican John Heinrich versus Zach Stevenson. And in District 35B, it is Jerry Newton, who is currently a senator, running for state representative following redistricting. He is the DFL candidate there against Polly Madison, the Republican candidate. And in U.S. Representative District 3, which covers our area, it's Dean Phillips, a Democrat, currently with 38% of the vote versus Tom Wheeler with 3% of the vote. Again, very early, only 15 precincts of 257 reporting, so a long ways to go in that race. Moving on to the governor's race, this is a hotly contested one. Incumbent Tim Walz, the Democrat there, versus Scott Jensen. Jensen currently leading 51% to 46. Again, fairly early in the night, 133 of more than 4,100 precincts. So a long ways to go there as well. Moving on to Attorney General, this is another hotly contested race. Incumbent Keith Ellison, the Democrat there with 45%. Jim Schultz, his challenger with 55% of the vote. Again, just 133 precincts reporting out of 4,100 in the state. And Secretary of State there, a very close one currently, Steve Simon versus Kim Crockett. Again, just 133 precincts reporting. And for State Auditor, I imagine the same thing, 133 of 4,100. Ryan Wilson, the challenger there, the Republican challenger against incumbent Julie Blaha, the Democrat. And I believe that is all we have. All right. So there you go. What we have, again, still early on as far as those numbers statewide. Again, locally, we don't have any numbers in yet, but we hope that changes momentarily and we get some of those numbers. And as soon as we do, we will bring them to you. If we're not on the air, they will be cycling on our screen. But we're hoping to join you again shortly with some of those numbers again, and also hopefully some of the winners in the city council races. But until then, you're watching continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. I'm Steve Erickson. It's about 10 minutes to 10 o'clock on General Election Day, and we're still waiting for results here in Anoka County. Isn't that right, Jen? We thought we'd get you into the mix now. Normally by now I feel like we would be interviewing some of the winning candidates.
Yeah, we're waiting for something to do tonight, but you know what? On any given election day, a lot of patience is required, and this is one of those instances. It looks like, as far as we can tell, there are several counties throughout the state, not just Anoka County, who don't have precincts reporting yet, so we are just refresh like the rest of the state, waiting for some of those numbers to come in. Had hoped to have a guest by now to talk about maybe what their interest was now that they've won their seat, but that's going to have to wait.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We looked, Hennepin County has a lot of theirs in, but I'm seeing here Dakota, Ramsey are sort of in a similar situation as Anoka County, so I guess we just have to continue to be patient. We try to talk to City Clerk Joan Lensmeyer. Obviously, she's pretty busy,
Very busy.
as our election judges return with all their materials, and couldn't give us any insight into maybe what's going on here. If it's it doesn't sound like it's a Coon Rapids thing, because obviously none of the county results are in. If it's one county, two counties, you know, we just don't know at this point. But
our city clerk is hard at work. We do know that, and the election judges have had a very busy night because turnout was quite high, which is good news. And we're going to head over to City Hall, where those election judges are slowly coming in to the facility to bring the results in, and so that they can be tabulated. And with that, we go now to Steve Antis, our reporter, who's out there with an election judge who's been through it before.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, we are here with Coon Rapids resident Gary Olson, who has been an election judge here in the city for the past 6 years.
Yeah.
This has been a very long day for you and the rest of the election judges.
Yeah, it starts at about 6 o'clock in the morning and goes through until we can get the ballots all put together and all the reports put in, so usually about 10 o'clock or so. So it's a long day.
And you said there was a lot of voters traffic today at your precinct?
I'd say there was a lot of voter traffic today. Lots of people in and out all day long. So pretty busy day.
And again, you said that you've been an election judge here in the city for the past 6 years. What keeps you coming back, these long days that you undergo?
Must be that Scandinavian background of mine. Just keep going at because I get beaten again and again and again. But really, it's more or less something I can do, and something that now that I've got a little experience, I can do it well. So why not do it to help the city and the country really keep going?
And this is kind of, in a sense, kind of a public servant giving back of your time, right?
That's effectively what it is. And I'm old enough now that I don't have kids and I don't have too much taking up all my time. So why not take and do it for something like this, where I can actually provide some value back to the community.
And I understand that there is a program that involves student election judges.
Yes.
And would you encourage young people out there that might be watching this to get involved?
I would say definitely it's something they should really take an interest in. There's a lot of work involved in it, and I think most people don't know what it takes to put an election on and actually do a good, safe job with an election that gives you good results. So yeah, I'd say if you're a student, get involved in that. And I think most communities have a way to do that.
Now, I know you just had come in here recently, and there were a lot of election judges that were coming in kind of late here. And any idea what that is, reason for that?
Probably because it was a really busy day. And there's a lot of work you have to do in the process of getting all the reports together. So it doesn't surprise me that when there's a lot of activity, it takes more time to get everything done.
All right. Well, I know it's been a long day. We'll let you go on your way. But again, thank you so much, Gary, for stopping and talking with us. That was Gary Olson, election judge here in the city of Coon Rapids, and we'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Steve. And that is invaluable help that our city and all cities rely on with those election judges, particularly the ones that do come with experience, as he mentioned. Busy manning the polling and locations and the precincts, then the ballot boxes that are sending those result information back to the county. And after a long day of monitoring all of that, bringing that report back to the city clerk, which is what's happening right now. But again, Steve, I think the theme of the night is patience. we will continue to wait, and we hope to bring you not only some results, but maybe some more interviews, but that is yet to be determined based on how long this waiting game really does go.
Yeah, it's interesting because, for us, we're waiting for this, but I can't imagine being a candidate kind of, getting on the home stretch there and wanting this to be done and wanting to hear, which way the results went.
It's a really good point. Can you imagine that anxiety, the relief of the campaign being over? I think of the few of the candidates that we heard from mention that, all this buildup, you're wound a little tight, I would imagine, at that point, and you're kind of ready to just celebrate either way. But unfortunately, everybody's just going to have to continue to play the waiting game a bit longer.
All right, like you said, those election judges still coming back with their materials. I think it's interesting they brought up the whole student judge thing, but that's sort of an idea that's happened here in the last couple of years where they've tried to get the students involved at the high school level and kind of the next generation of folks that will be working the polls.
I think that's a key piece for city governments is to engage all of the community, including the younger voters, so that they can build that experience and bring some of that to the table, hopefully election cycle to election cycle, and have that continuity of experience that they bring in. And there is a lot of learning involved. It's a fascinating process from what I've learned about it and know about it. So, people that do have sort of that active, civic-minded engagement, it would be a really interesting fit. And I know even at Coon Rapids High School, they encourage their students, it's a small portion of students who are old enough to do that, but particularly their senior class who has turned 18 and is anxious to participate in their first election. It'd be great to see some of them step up and take advantage of the education that's available to them and training so that they can participate in the process in a variety of ways, not just by voting.
Yeah, so that's for the little older kids. Maybe it's a good time to bring up for the younger kids. This is interesting. The League of Minnesota Cities is doing this Mayor for a Day essay contest.
Yeah, that is such an interesting idea to get young people engaged, particularly during an election season when it's on the minds of parents and teachers and the grown-ups around them. But the League of Minnesota Cities is hosting the essay contest. It's not a new contest. It's something that they do. 4th, 5th, and 6th graders can write an essay. And the interesting thing is here in Coon Rapids, we really encourage local students to participate. It's not a city contest per se. It's statewide. But if we have any local students that rise to the level of recognition within that program, they would have the opportunity to shadow the Coon Rapids mayor for a day, which could be a really fun experience and definitely educational. So we hope to have some participation on some level from our local students in that the contest is just open now through early to mid-December. So there's a lot of opportunity to write, what their ideas would be if you let kids rule the world. That could be a really interesting thing.
Yeah, that could be very interesting. So we'll see what ideas they come up with. I believe the deadline is December 12th that folks have to apply. We have all the information on the city's website, coonrapidsmn.gov. You can find the link to the form that you need to fill out and the requirements for the essay. And there's also some cash up for grabs. I think like $100 for the top 3 essays.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a 10 or 11-year-old, I think you could put that money to good use for sure. And it's right there on the homepage, like you said, coonrapidsmn.gov. If you find the homepage and scroll down, you're going to see it there and have all the details. And we encourage people to participate. It could be a fun opportunity to have a local student represented in that statewide competition.
Yeah, pretty cool. So ways to get involved for the levels there. Obviously, we thank our election judges. They couldn't do these elections without all of their help. Many of them sit at the polls from sun up to sundown and work long days to make sure everything goes smoothly. So again, we couldn't do it without all of their help. They are trained to do this and going through all those procedures. So again, thanks for their help.
It is really important, and also something that it doesn't just happen today. I think that might be something that viewers aren't thinking about or realizing, but the people that participate in the election process as a judge have done so for many weeks leading up. So it's quite a commitment, and one that is, statewide and nationwide crucial to our election system.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to keep refreshing over here. I keep waiting for that 0 precincts to turn into some sort of number.
Yeah, exactly. We're just almost at the top of the hour here at 10 o'clock Central Time. And if you're just joining us, we are still waiting for results here on election night. This is kind of unique. Normally we have some results by now, but we pretty much have 0 for Anoka County. So we don't know which way these races are going to go at this point. Normally even we would have probably had a winner in our studio by now. We're still hoping to do that tonight. with our winners in the mayoral race, along with council members in Ward 3 and Ward 5. But again, it's a waiting game at this point. We're not sure what is going on, but as soon as we have some numbers, hey, look at that. You ask and they pop in.
I just refreshed it. It was
Right.
like, wow,
Finally,
there we
some
go.
results at 10 o'clock on election night. All right, well, the mayoral race for Coon Rapids, there's 2 precincts left to report there. Incumbent Mayor Jerry Cook with 63% of the vote and challenger Sharon Compton with 36%. In the Ward 3 City Council race, Sean Novak, the challenger there with 54% of the vote. Pablo Hernandez Jr., who currently holds that seat, with 46% of the vote. There are still 2 precincts left to report there, so we still are kind of waiting on there. It looks like about a 130 vote spread. Moving to our Ward 5 City Council seat, Brian Armstrong there with 71% of the vote, and Jonathan Hochschild, the challenger, with 29%. That is all 5 precincts reporting. So Brian Armstrong, the unofficial winner for City Council Ward 5. Again, that is an open seat because Brad Johnson, who currently holds that seat, is running for county attorney. So there we go, 1 race complete. Moving on to the county commissioner races in District 1, Matt Look with 65% of the vote. His challenger, Kevin Landry, actually withdrew, but his name remained on the ballot. So Look obviously going on to win another term as county commissioner. Moving into District 2, incumbent Julie Brosted did not have a challenger with 2 precincts left to report. Looks like she will obviously be the winner there. Moving on to District 3, Jeff Reinert, the incumbent there with 57% of the vote. Challenger Cindy Hansen with 42%. That race is final, so Jeff Reinert getting another term there on the Anoka County Board. Moving on to District 4, incumbent Scott Schulte with 73% of the vote. His challenger Raymond Zurin, 27%. Still 3 precincts left to report there. So we still have a few more numbers there, but it looks like Schulte will be getting his seat again on the Anoka County Board. Moving on to District 5, incumbent Mike Gamash, 53% of the vote. Tracy Strombeck with 46%. That is all precincts reporting, so Mike Gamash, the unofficial winner there, getting another term on the Anoka County Board. Moving on to District 6, Julie Jepson, who is currently a Blaine City Council member, with 56% of the vote. David Clark with 44% of the vote. There is still 1 precinct left to report, but looks like Jepson is going to win in District 6. Moving on to District 7, Mandy Meissner, the incumbent there, with 70% of the vote. Her challenger Joseph Sturdivant with 29%. 1 precinct left to report there. It looks like Meissner will retain her seat on the county board. Moving to our race for sheriff, 119 of 128 precincts reporting. Brad Wise with 51% of the vote. Challenger Paul Lensmeyer with 49%. So looks like about, 2,600 votes separate the two there, with still 9 precincts left to report. And moving to the county attorney race, Brad Johnson with 64% of the vote. His challenger Wade Kish with 36%. Again, 9 precincts left to report in the county, but Brad Johnson has a big number of votes there, and looks like, depending what happens with the next 9 precincts, looks like he will become the new Anoka County attorney. Moving on now to some of our state races. The state senator in District 35. This is a close one here. Carrie Rayrauer with 50% of the vote. Jim Abler with 50% of the vote, with 3 precincts left to report. So looks like, if I can do my math quickly here, about 260 votes separating the two, with 3 precincts left to report. Moving to state representative in District 35A, Zach Stevenson with 52% of the vote, and John Heinrich with 47% of the vote. Again, these 2 men are currently in the legislature, and they're head-to-head here due to redistricting. 1 precinct left to report there. 52 again, 47%. And moving to state representative in District 35B, Jerry Newton with 50% of the vote here. Polly Madison with 50% of the vote. So just over 100, about 130 votes spread there, with 2 precincts left, so very tight there. Jerry Newton, of course, is a current state senator. He is running for rep this time. Moving on to U.S. Representative in District 3, our representative in Congress is Dean Phillips with 60% of the vote. Challenger Tom Wheeler with 40% of the vote, with just 6 precincts to report. So it looks like Dean Phillips winning that again. And then we have our other state races there. Governor Tim Walz, the incumbent there, with 58% of the vote. Scott Jensen with 39%. Again, still quite a few precincts left to report, more than about almost 3,000, so still a long ways to go in that race. Moving on to Attorney General, incumbent Keith Ellison with 56% of the vote. Challenger Jim Schultz with 44% again, still a long ways to go in that race. Secretary of State Steve Simon, the incumbent there, with 60% of the vote. Kim Crockett, 39%. Still a long ways to go there as well. State Auditor Julie Blaha, the incumbent, with 53% of the vote. Challenger Ryan Wilson with 42%. Again, lots of precincts left to report in those 4 state races, so still a long night ahead for those folks vying for those seats. But we're happy to report we do have some local results here, so that is good to see. We will have, we knew we were going to have a new face on the Coon Rapids City Council with Brad Johnson vying for county attorney. We now know that we do have that person, and that will be Brian Armstrong. So we hope to have him in here shortly, and we'll hear more from him about how he's feeling here on election night. So once we have him, we will be back here with continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. I'm Steve Erickson, 10:37 p.m. now on election night, and we have most of the results in our city races in. Let's go to those now in the mayoral race. Incumbent Jerry Cook with 63% of the vote. His challenger Sharon Compton with 36%. There is still one precinct left to report there. That is the same precinct that has not yet reported in our other race in Ward 3. Let's go to that. Sean Novak with 53% of the vote. Pablo Hernandez Jr., who is currently on the council with 47%. Again, one precinct left there, and there's about 150 vote difference in that race. Moving on to Ward 5, this is the open seat as Brad Johnson has run for county attorney and appears to have won that race tonight. Brian Armstrong with 71% of the vote and Jonathan Housechild with 29%. That's with 5 of 5 precincts reporting. We're going to toss it over to Jen now, who is standing by with our winner in Ward 5.
That's right, Steve. We have a clear winner in Ward 5, Brian Armstrong, and he joins us now in the studio. And Brian, congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
First and foremost, thanks for coming on in tonight. We disrupted your celebration a little bit, but I'm sure that viewers are excited to hear from a new face on the council. How does it feel to be named the winner for this particular council seat in Ward 5?
It feels great. It was a lot of hard work, and I had a lot of people helping me get here. So. But yeah, I'm feeling great, and I'm looking forward to continuing to go to the council meetings and start January 1.
Yeah, you know, campaigning is no joke. It takes a lot of time and effort, and I can attest to the fact that we've seen you at a lot of meetings and a lot of community gatherings. It appears that you've been trying to do your homework and be prepared. What has all of that involvement leading up to the election done to help you feel ready for this new position?
Well, actually, there's a lot of inner workings to how the city operates, and a lot of stuff you don't see either in the council meetings or day to day. And on the campaign trail, I met a lot of very, very interesting people, and a lot of people have a lot of ideas. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me.
Yeah, you have some navigating to do to get the temperature of the people that you represent, of what their interests are and desires. But how about for yourself? Why decide to run now? What are some of the goals that you have?
Well, I think there's quite a few of us out there that have kind of looked over the last few years and not always liked the way things were going, and honestly, at one point, you kind of looked at yourself in the mirror and you said, if you're going to complain about it, you better do something about it. You better get involved. And so that's where I jumped in. I mean, I've lived in Coon Rapids all my life. I love Coon Rapids. A lot of times, you've got that kind of small town feel, but you've also got a very thriving city that has a lot to offer. And I find that exciting to be working with that. My focus is going to be on helping keep the streets clean, get the potholes cleaned up from the simple side of things, but then also, as a lot of people are concerned about the safety of the community. But as far as that goes, just the day-to-day things as far as making sure that the city's safe, that people's needs are met, and that you listen to the people. My little mantra was you, Y-O-U, you, others, and us, working together to get things accomplished for the city.
And you mentioned that you care deeply about Coon Rapids and you're very committed to the city. You have served in other capacities, so you bring some different perspectives to the table. What are some of the ways that you've been involved prior to this?
I worked on the Safety Commission for a number of years, and that kind of was tied in with my police reserve years. I was with the police reserves. I if you want to call it, retired as the captain of the reserves when I finally stepped down from that. But then I've also been involved with the Lions Club over the years. I've always loved working with the community, working with the people, trying to make where you live in a better place.
Well, again, congratulations. An exciting night for you, I'm sure, and we'll be hearing more from you and seeing more of you in the months to come with the swearing in, and then as you get your feet wet and start to learn more as you go.
Thank you.
And now we are going to look at some of the election results that we have coming in. It looks like we have a declared winner. We have 22 of 22 precincts reporting. So Jerry Cook, our current mayor, will hold his position as mayor and return in that capacity. We also have a final result in Ward 3. Sean Novak has 52% of the votes over Pablo Hernandez Jr., who was in the position, appointed to that position after Wade Demmer, previous council member, had left in the middle of his term. 4 out of 4 precincts are reporting there, and now it looks like in Ward 3, the new council person will be Sean Novak. And again, of course, we just heard from Brian Armstrong, who will be the new council member in Ward 5, earning 71% of the votes, 5 of 5 precincts reporting. And I will toss it over to Steve Erickson, who will cycle through some of the other results we have.
All right, thank you very much, Jen. Congratulations to Brian, our new Ward 5 representative on the City Council. Let's take a look now at some of our other races. Moving on to Anoka County Commissioner in District 1, incumbent Matt Look there with 66% of the vote. Kevin Landry with 33%. He did withdraw from the race, but his name remained on the ballot. So Matt Look, the incumbent, retains his seat on the Anoka County Board. Moving on to District 2, Julie Brosted with 99% of the vote. She was unchallenged, so not surprising there. She will keep her seat on the Anoka County Board. In District 3, incumbent Jeff Reinert with 57% of the vote. Challenger Cindy Hansen with 42%. Reinert retains his seat again. In District 4, Scott Schulte, the incumbent there, with 72% of the vote. Challenger Raymond Zuran with 27%. Again, these some of the commissioners are in different districts following redistricting. Schulte used to be in 7, now is in District 4. So those may not match up, but the faces should look familiar there. In District 5, incumbent Mike Gamache with 53% of the vote. Tracy Stromback with 46%, with all precincts reporting. So Gamache getting another term on the Anoka County Board. Moving on to District 6, Julie Jepson with 56% of the vote. David Clark, 44%. So it looks like Julie Jepson has won there. She is currently on the Blaine City Council, so she will be taking a seat on the Anoka County Board. And in District 7, Mandy Meisner, the incumbent there, with 70% of the vote. Challenger Joseph Sturdivant with 29%, so Meisner retaining as well. Moving on to the sheriff's race in Anoka County here, Paul Lensmeyer with 48% of the vote. Former Coon Rapids Police Chief Brad Wise with 51% of the vote. That race is now complete with all 128 precincts reporting in the county. So Brad Wise, the new Anoka County Sheriff as of next year. Moving on to the Anoka County Attorney race there, that one is complete as well. Brad Johnson, who's currently on the Coon Rapids City Council, with 64% of the vote. Wade Kish with 36%. So Brad Johnson appears to be a new Anoka County Attorney as of next year. Moving on to State Senator in District 35, Carrie Rayrauer with 50% of the vote. Jim Abler with 50% of the vote. It looks like Abler edged out Rayrauer there with about, 185 votes or so, with all precincts reporting, but a very close race there. Moving on to State Representative in District 35A, Zach Stevenson with 52% of the vote. John Heinrich, 47%. Again, both these men are current representatives and squaring off head-to-head following redistricting, but it looks like Zach Stevenson has won the seat in District 35A. Moving to District 35B, Jerry Newton, current senator, appears to be winning here and is the winner in State Representative District 35B. So he will move back to the House with 51% of the vote. His challenger, Polly Madison, with 49%. And in U.S. Representative in District 3, Dean Phillips, 60% of the vote. Tom Wheeler with 40%. That's all precincts reporting. So Dean Phillips retaining his seat there. And some other state races here, Tim Walls, 57% of the vote. Scott Jensen, 40%. Again, these haven't changed much. There's still about half of the precincts to go, about 2,100, 2,200 precincts left. Same thing in the Attorney General race. Keith Ellison with 55%, Jim Schultz 45% at this hour. Steve Simon, the incumbent Secretary of State, with 59%, challenger Kim Crockett 41%, and for State Auditor, Julie Blaha with 52%, Ryan Wilson 43%. Again, still more than half of the precincts to report statewide in those races. We're going to head over now to Jennifer Anderson, who is standing by with our mayor.
Yeah, it's exciting to have results. You know, we kind of talked about this, Steve, that it might have been the case where we're waiting, and then all the numbers come in really short order, which is exactly what happened. And I am joined now by incumbent mayor and now returning mayor, Jerry Cook, who joins us here in studio. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How does it feel to bring home a win again?
Feels very good. You know, you go in with very even expectations. You know, God has a plan, and you're going to work with that plan however it goes. But I am very thankful that we were successful.
You had to wait a little bit for it tonight. There was that pause as there were no precincts reporting yet, and it took a little patience on all of our parts. And in here in the studio, we were thinking, well, I can just imagine being a candidate right now. You know, you just want those numbers to come in, and then they started to come in, and it was very clear that you were going to have another term. This is your third term, is that correct?
Third term, correct.
What are your goals? You know, continuing, I imagine, what you've already established, but what are your ideas in coming back to the role again?
So, I love being mayor. I love Coon Rapids, and I want to continue just doing the best job as I can as the mayor. I try and represent the city at events, when I meet with new businesses, when I've been the president of the North Metro Mayors for 4 years. And it's all about, I think, bringing Coon Rapids out front and center. We've introduced some new things. We introduced the new tree lighting last year, which will be coming up on December 3rd, which is an extremely exciting evening. We introduced the all-class reunion. There's been a lot of things that we've added, and one thing I love about Coon Rapids, and I feel like I'm sort of rambling a little bit, is we're 63,000 people. We're a very large community. We have all of the amenities that, for shopping and restaurants and, all those things. But when you really get involved, it feels very much like Mayberry. I mean, you
start to recognize a lot of faces, right?
You really do.
Yeah.
You really do. I mean, we just had a very nice evening this evening with Brad Wise and Brad Johnson and all these folks, and it's just it's a tight community.
Well, and you mentioned Coon Rapids being sort of front and center, and it's interesting phrase to use because tonight we are really seeing Coon Rapids represented in interesting ways in other races. You mentioned Brad Wise, Brad Johnson, people that have experience and connections here in Coon Rapids that are now going to be in roles with a bit of a wider reach throughout the county, and that must be kind of exciting for you to see as colleagues that you've worked with for a long time.
It's very exciting. I've served with Brad Johnson on the council for 8 years. We knew he was going to be an excellent candidate for county attorney. Worked with Brad Wise for 11 years as our police chief. Awesome man, and we knew he'd be a tremendous sheriff. So we're looking forward to great things.
And with some of those changes, we see some new faces, and also on the council, you are going to be bringing in some new members onto the city council. As somebody that comes with that existing experience, do you look forward to helping foster those new relationships and the learning that is just inevitable when you have people on the council for the first time? There's a lot to take in.
There's a lot to take in. I mean, Matt will give him the fire hose treatment, through the council orientation. But there's still just so much to learn in getting along and how you find consensus, how you come to agreements. And I think Brian's going to be great. And do we know what's going on in the other ward yet?
It's Sean Novak. It
is
appears
Sean
that
Novak?
will be the next person on the council as well. Yep.
Pablo's been a tremendous council member for the time he's been there, and I'm sure Sean will do a great job.
Yeah, I would imagine there's that transition time where those of you that have that experience in your seats will take the new people sort of under your wing, if you would say, just to get them, ready to lead in their own ways. And I think that's interesting for the community to see the blend of returning faces and new, and to see how you all mesh and what your shared vision will become as a council for the city.
Well, and when you think about it, it takes a full year to actually gain the experience to get through a full cycle of everything, the budget, all the processes we go through in a year. So, yeah.
You put in a lot of time. You mentioned the Mayor's Association and all these events, and as mayor, you maybe sometimes serve as like a special guest at something, but you're really taking an active role in helping to plan and organize some of these new events that the city has continued to expand upon. Yeah. But you say you love being mayor, and you're here again. It's a big commitment. You show no signs of wanting to slow down from all of those many things you have your hands in.
No, it is. It is. I describe the mayor role. I mean, I started on a city council, and you could do city council work maybe less than 10 hours a week. And then when I became mayor, the first year or two, it became a full-time job. Because you were asked to be at everything, and it takes a long time to figure out what you have to be at, what you don't have to be at. And I describe it as, Murphy's Law. Stuff will expand to fit all available space.
Of course.
The mayor's calendar will expand to fit all available space on your calendar. So you have to really be disciplined and figure out where to put it.
This is slightly off of election topic, but you talk about mayor's calendar. Maybe we hope one of the things on your calendar would be hosting a young person to be mayor for the day. We talked about that earlier tonight on the show, that if you return to this position, you're really interested and engaged in trying to get the youth to learn more about what you do and maybe have the chance to shadow.
One of the fun things that you do as mayor is I meet with scouts when they're building a better community or something like that. Meeting with them then, or I also, because I'm also with the Rotary Club, we go into the schools and present dictionaries to all the third graders. And it always evolves into a ask the mayor questions. And it's so fun to listen to all those third graders and the questions they've got for the mayor. And I'm looking forward to that. It's an essay contest, I believe you're talking about, yeah. That, to be mayor for a day. And I'm anxious to see how that goes, and I would love to host whoever it is that wins.
Yeah, so if there's grown-ups at home watching tonight and listening in, tell your kids to get their pen and paper out and start to write what they would do as mayor for a day, because we really would like to see Coon Rapids represented in that League of Minnesota Cities essay contest as well. And again, it's a small town feel in Coon Rapids, but really a large population represented and making quite an impact across the county. This has been an interesting election night to see some of these numbers come in.
Really is.
I'm really wondering if we might be talking about recount and a few things, not in Coon Rapids, but county, statewide. Some of these races are quite close, so it's going to be interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again to you, Mayor, on another term, and we thank you for coming in and disrupting your celebration a little bit to come and chat with us.
Thank you.
And we'll go back to Steve now with another look at the election results.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations to Mayor Cook. There you see it, 63% of the vote. His challenger, Sharon Compton, with 36%. So he will be taking his third term on the Coon Rapids City Council. All right, we're waiting for our last City Council winner to come in, Sean Novak. He received 52% of the vote. Pablo Hernandez Jr., who is currently on the council, with 47%. So he is coming in now and will join us shortly. We're also hearing from the winners in our two county races that we've been particularly keeping an eye on, the county sheriff along with the county attorney. So we're going to hear from them, and I don't know if we have the results from the Anoka County sheriff race, if we could pull those up quickly. That was a close race here tonight, but in the end, former Coon Rapids Police Chief Brad Wise came out on top with 51% of the vote. His challenger, or the other person vying for that open seat, was Paul Lensmeyer, who is a commander at the sheriff's office. He got 48% of the vote, so Brad Wise appears to be the new Anoka County Sheriff as of the beginning of next year. Again, he was up tonight with Jerry Cook, who we just heard from, up at Bunker Hills, and Steve Antis is also there and just spoke with him.
All right, thank you very much. I am standing here with the winner of tonight's Anoka County Sheriff's race, Brad Wise, Sheriff-elect of the county. How does it feel?
It's all very surreal, to be honest. It was so much work from the beginning. Of course, all props to my opponent, Paul Lensmeyer. He ran a great race. I appreciate so much that we held the bar high for the both of us, that it was good, honest, ethical race, and I'm very thankful for that.
Now, what are you going to be doing? What's your first priority when you get into office?
Well, the first priority is I need to get to know the Sheriff's Office staff. I know a good number of them because I've been around law enforcement in Anoka County for a long time. But there's many characters in there. Every one of them is very important. And I want to make sure that they get to know me and that I get to know them, and that we're all focused on providing the best service we possibly can to the citizens of Anoka County.
And you had a big group of supporters here tonight. Anyone you want to thank specifically?
Yeah, there actually are many people to thank, and the hard part, of course, of thanking is I'm fearful of omitting somebody that was really important. But the core of my campaign help, I'm going to call out specifically Sam Gertz. Angie Bray Johnson was very helpful for me. Tracy Siegfried. Gosh, there are just so many characters. There are just so many. Well, and of course, I need to thank my wife too, Kristen. She's been a rock star. It's been very challenging for her too. It's difficult to live with me through the stress of running a political campaign. So I really appreciate her effort too. And then I got to thank the Coon Rapids cops. Many of the cops for Coon Rapids helped me in this race, and they did so out of the goodness of their hearts because they believed in what we accomplished at Coon Rapids, and they know what's going to be delivered for Anoka County, and I can't wait to get started and work with the deputies up there to make a difference.
I know one of the things that you talked about in your campaigning was the concern for mental health services for people that in the Anoka County Jail. Any thought about what you would do now going forward as the sheriff-elect?
Yeah, in Coon Rapids, we started a program, a mental health professional program about a year ago. We did a partnership with Blaine, where we split an employee 50-50 split. It wanted to be so successful, both Blaine and Coon Rapids separately sought full-time positions. It's so important to have that embedded position because it allows a law enforcement agency to have the kind of follow-up with an individual that's in crisis or maybe close to experiencing crisis, that you can make a difference and you can keep people out of the justice system that don't belong there.
Well, once again, congratulations. We'll let you get back to your party tonight. Again, congratulations goes out to Brad Johnson, Anoka County Sheriff-elect. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Again, there are the final numbers with Brad Wise, who we just heard from, 51% of the vote. Paul Lensmeyer with 48% of the vote. Hard-fought battle on by both men on all fronts these past 11 months or so. So congratulations are in order for Brad Wise. Moving on to the Anoka County Attorney race. There's the results there. Brad Johnson, who of course is a current Coon Rapids City Council member. He represents Ward 5 currently. He received 64% of the vote. Wade Kish, who is currently in that office or works in the Anoka County Attorney's Office, has 36% of the vote. So Johnson appears to be the Anoka County Attorney starting next year. That's with 128 of 128 precincts reporting. All right, we had hoped to have that interview now, but we don't have it quite yet. We will have that interview for you shortly. Again, we are still waiting for Sean Novak to come in here as well. He should be here shortly. What time are we at here? 11 o'clock, top of the hour, midnight Eastern time. So we're gonna take a quick break here. We will cycle the results that we currently have for all the races that we're covering. We'll come back and hear from Sean Novak, also along with the Anoka County Attorney-elect, Brad Johnson. You're watching continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 2022 vote here on CTN. We have our last winner, last but not least, the Ward 3 race. There with Sean Novak coming out on top with 52% of the vote. Pablo Hernandez Jr., who is currently on the council with 47% of the vote. That's with all 4 precincts reporting. We're going to head over now to Jennifer, who is standing by with the winner.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, this was an interesting race. We had a situation that Wade Demmer, the former city council person, had stepped down due to a move out of his ward. And so Pablo Hernandez Jr., which was running in this campaign, had been appointed to the position. And Sean Novak was challenging in a sense, although, you know, I don't know, it's an incumbent, but it's different situation. So Sean, congratulations are in order. You received the majority of the votes. How does it feel to be declared the winner?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Feels fantastic. This was a hard-fought race. A couple of the others in the city were not as competitive, you might say, but no, I give Pablo all the credit in the world. He fought hard for this race, so did I, and the people of the city spoke, and I will certainly do my best to speak for those who voted for Pablo as well, because obviously it was very close.
You know, it takes a lot of work to run. I know you guys spend a lot of time out in the community, knocking on doors and meeting people and talking. What did you gather from the campaigning process in terms of what is important to people in the neighborhoods around you that you're going to represent?
One thing that I heard a lot about is crime. People are very concerned about crime moving into the community. Obviously, we've seen a lot of what happens in Hennepin County, and their biggest concern was that they wouldn't be seeing that kind of thing move into Anoka County, and if they did, that it would be prosecuted properly. That would have to be the largest. The other one would be business. I own my own business here in Coon Rapids, and I know that that was a big driver for me to run for office.
And there is a thriving retail and business community in the city. It's sort of a dynamic mix in Coon Rapids of kind of a small town feel in some ways, but really it is a large population, and there is quite industry here as well. What are some of your goals? What would you like to do now that you're going to be in this position?
You know, what I'd really like to do is make sure that we are representing both the people and the businesses properly. I sit on the board of directors for Anoka County Chamber of Commerce, Anoka County Area Chamber of Commerce, excuse me. And the big thing that I want to do is when a business comes to the city needing something, let's try and find a way to get to yes. It's not the job of the city council to stand in the way of what a business is trying to get done. It's the job of the city council to work as a liaison between the people and the businesses in order to make sure that both can flourish properly.
Well, and I would imagine that's partly about building relationships so that the businesses know who to ask and how to ask, and vice versa. The council knows who they're trying to represent and what their needs are. As a business owner, do you think that will position you well to be able to make some of those relationships?
I certainly hope so. I know that in the 6 years that I've owned my business, there has been a little bit of pushback coming in from the city council on a couple of different things. But I know that I need to talk with a lot of those other members and find out exactly where we are at, where we want to go as a group.
And I would imagine for anybody joining a council, it's a learning curve and a process of taking in a lot of new information. Current mayor and also now mayor-elect Jerry Cook just preceded you here in our show and talked a little bit about bringing in the new faces on the council to help with that learning curve. How anxious are you to just get started and start to consume as much of that information as you can?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've known Jerry Cook now for quite some time. He and my parents were good friends, and I look forward to working with Jerry, and also Brian Armstrong and I were on the Safety Commission together as well. So I happen to know several of the members on the council already. It's going to be really fun to work with them going forward.
What do you hope to do first? What are you most looking forward to in this new position? I mean, tonight's kind of been, I'm sure, a night of some anxiety and waiting and anticipation, and now that you can say, oh, okay, I get to do this, what are you looking forward to?
Getting sworn in.
Just having that moment, raise your hand and get your seat.
Seriously. What I really think we're looking forward to do is finding out where the city is at. I have a finance background. I've worked in the financial industry now for about 12 years. I want to look at where we're at from a financial standpoint and say, okay, where are we spending our money? What should we be spending our money on? And where is that then going to go in the future? Where can we actually improve how we're spending our money? Do we need to be taxing as much as we are? But that's obviously a very, very large scale program to be putting in place.
Yeah, it's all a process, right?
Exactly.
It takes time and there are stages. Before we started here, you mentioned to me that you do have kind of a long history in the city, served on a commission and other things, and also even a graduate of Coon Rapids High School back in the day. What
Class of
does
89.
Coon Rapids mean to you?
I love this city. I have always loved this city. I did move away for about 9 or 10 years, lived on about 4 blocks south of Lake in Chicago in Minneapolis. And so we were right in the middle of where things blew up during George Floyd. Obviously, we weren't there at that time. My wife and I have been here for about 18 years, and this is where we've raised our children. But going all the way back, my parents were very socially active in this city. And that's where I grew up. That's how I grew up. They were giving to the city left and right to the day they died. And the fact that I'm now able to do that at this level, it hasn't really sunk in yet, but it's heartwarming. You know, I know they're looking down on me right now saying, hey, okay, now it's your turn.
And this is something you've wanted for a while. Have you made some attempts at public office before? Is this kind of your foray into this different world here? How has that been?
No, I did run once for a ward and then once for a at-large position. But that was quite some time ago. I think the at-large position was maybe 10 years. And I'll admit, I probably wasn't ready for it at that point. But I made a decent enough showing at that point to say, well, maybe when I'm ready for it, I'll do it. And I talked to my boss about it, who is my lovely wife, Cheryl, and she said, yeah, you can do this time. You can run.
Yeah, as I suppose a team effort isn't such a bad idea because it really is quite a commitment in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, I was talking to her this afternoon saying, thank you so much, win or lose. I just know that there's no way I could have done this without her.
Well, that's great. We appreciate you coming in. We look forward to you taking a role on the council and what you bring to the table. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
And good luck. And we're going to take another look at those numbers. I'll toss it back to Steve.
All right, thank you very much, Jen. Congratulations to Sean Novak there. You see the number is 52%, Pablo Hernandez Jr. with 47% of the vote there. So now we have heard from all 3 of our council representatives that were on the ballot tonight, and we got the results from those. We're going to move now to the county attorney race. We heard from Brad Johnson a little earlier, or we did not hear from him, rather we're going to hear from him here. He received 64% of the vote. Wade Kish with 36% of the vote, with 128 precincts reporting in the county. So Brad Johnson, the new Anoka County attorney, starting in 2022. Again, he did not run for city council in Ward 5 because he was running for this race. Steve Antis has been hanging out with him, and he joins us now with an interview with Brad.
All right, thank you so much. We are here with the winner of the Anoka County attorney race, Brad Johnson. Congratulations on winning the county attorney's office. What is this feeling like for you right now?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for the opportunity to talk just a little bit. It's very humbling. My heart is bursting right now because of all of the people in Anoka County who placed their faith in us, not just for public safety, but for good government. And that's our mission that we have to carry out now. So I look forward to the opportunity, and I'm humbled by it. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take this on.
I think to a lot of voters it looked like Wade Kish was an insider with the attorney's office. I mean, was that a little intimidating as you attempted to run your campaign?
Not really. I've been serving the community for a long time. Some people know this. I ran for county attorney some time ago. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I've been serving on the Coon Rapids City Council. So I was pretty confident we'd built some good relationships in the community, but you never know until you run the race.
Now, you said that any county attorney needs to have an 8-year plan.
Right.
What's your priority in that new plan that you will put into place when you take over?
Yeah, so I'd invite people to look at the website. It's still up there. It's under the vision page on that, and it's an 8-year plan to improve the relationships between law enforcement and the county attorney's office, to improve relationships between the county attorney's office and our local schools, to have a citizens advisory committee for the county attorney so that we can get a better finger on the pulse on what's on the hearts and minds of people in the community. And there's just a lot more that we can do. But it starts with really holding people accountable for the crimes that they commit, but giving them the opportunity then to rehabilitate and to reintegrate in our community, because most of them, not all of them, but most of them live here.
Well, again, congratulations. We'll let you go and celebrate with your posse here tonight. And we'll just look forward to having you take over as the new Anoka County Attorney-elect here.
I look forward to it too, and I want to say to the citizens of Anoka County, we're going to work really hard to just live up to what they've placed in us, the expectations that they have in us, which are high expectations, to protect the community, to have good local government. I want to thank my campaign team. They've been invaluable for me, and you can still tell that people are celebrating here tonight. But the mission that we have before us is important, and we're gonna focus hard on it in this year to come. So thank you very much, Steve.
Congratulations. Again, Brad Johnson, the Anoka County Attorney-elect. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Steve. Again, those are the final numbers. Brad Johnson with 64% of the vote, Wade Kish with 36%. Now, obviously that Johnson name, not unfamiliar to Anoka County residents. His grandfather, Robert W. Johnson, and his father, Robert M.A. Johnson, both served in that role here in Anoka County. And so congratulations to him. Wanted to quickly mention the AP has called the governor's race. So Governor Tim Walz projected to be the winner, elected to his second term here. And there's talk that Walz and DFLers are outperforming 2018 in the suburbs, including Anoka County. So that obviously going into some of that projection there. And again, that might be good news for Ellison and Blaha and the other race here for attorney or Secretary of State. So those numbers still not complete though tonight. We're going to take a look through all the numbers that we have one more time here before we call it a night. Starting off with our Coon Rapids City Council. Coon Rapids Mayor Jerry Cook with 63% of the vote. His challenger Sharon Compton with 36% of the vote. So Jerry Cook moving on to his third term as mayor in Coon Rapids. In the Ward 3 City Council race, we just heard from Sean Novak. He got 52% of the vote. Pablo Hernandez Jr., who was appointed to the council, receiving 47% of the vote with all precincts reporting. And in the open Ward 5 seat, due to Brad Johnson now becoming the county attorney, Brian Armstrong, who we heard from a little earlier, with an overwhelming number of votes there, 71%. Jonathan Hochschild with 29%. Moving to the Anoka County Board in District 1, Matt Look with 66% of the vote. Challenger Kevin Landry with 33%. However, Landry did drop out of the race. However, his name remained on the ballot. Moving to District 2, Julie Brosta, the incumbent there, running unopposed, secures another term on the county board. In District 3, incumbent Jeff Reinhardt retaining his seat with 57% of the vote over Cindy Hansen with 42%. In District 4, Scott Schulte, current board leader, the current board chair, that's correct, 72% of the vote, Raymond Zirin with 27% of the vote. Moving to District 5, incumbent Mike Gamache with 53% of the vote, Tracy Strombeck with 46%, so Gamache there securing another term on the county board. In District 6, this was an open seat, Julie Jepson with 56% of the vote, David Clark with 44% of the vote. Julie Jepson, who is currently a Blaine City Council member, appears to have the District 6 seat. And in District 7, Mandy Meissner, the incumbent there with an overwhelming amount of votes, 70%. Her challenger, Joseph Sturdivant, with 29% of the vote. Moving on to Anoka County Sheriff, we heard from him earlier. Brad Wise, the winner here, the former Coon Rapids Police Chief, with 51% of the vote versus his challenger, Paul Lensmeyer, who received 48% of the vote. Moving to Anoka County Attorney, Brad Johnson, who we just heard from, winning there with 64% of the vote. Wade Kish with 36% of the vote. Moving on to State Senator in District 35, this was a real close one. Carrie Rayrauer with 50% of the vote, Jim Abler with 50% of the vote. However, Abler edging out Rayrauer there by about 186 votes. Moving into the state representative in District 35A, both of these guys are current state representatives, but due to redistricting, we're in a head-to-head matchup in District 35A. Zach Stevenson, the DFLer there, coming out on top with 52% of the vote, John Heinrich with 47%. And in District 35B, Jerry Newton, who is currently a state senator, will become a state representative in District 35B. He received 51% of the vote. His Republican challenger, Polly Madison, with 49%. In our U.S. congressional race, this is in District 3 for U.S. Representative. Dean Phillips there retaining his seat with 60% of the vote. His Republican challenger, Tom Wheeler, with 40%. Moving on to the state race, Tim Walz currently with 54% of the vote, Scott Jensen with 43%. Again, there still looks like, what, about 1,400 precincts left to report there, but again, the Associated Press has called Walz as the winner in that race, so he has been reelected to a second term. Moving on to Attorney General Keith Ellison, the incumbent there with 52% of the vote. His Republican challenger, Jim Schultz, with 47%. Moving on now to Secretary of State, Steve Simon, the incumbent there with 57% of the vote, Kim Crockett with 43%, and moving on to State Auditor, Julie Blaha, 49%, Ryan Wilson, 45%. That's a little closer, but yet again, there's still about 1,400 precincts outstanding in that race. And I believe that's all of the graphics. There's all the stars. Hey, we've come to the end of our coverage. It's now 11:23 p.m. on election night. We've been here now for just over 3 hours, and we were finally happy to see some results here locally at the 10 o'clock hour. That's when things started to pour in, and then we heard from all our winners. So, Jen, I think all in all, it's been a pretty good day and pretty busy polls, but everything, it sounds like, went as smoothly as possible.
You had to have a little patience on the front end, but then those numbers came in pretty quickly. Some really clear winners, and then interestingly enough, across the state, some close races too. So it's interesting to note that we've had quite a lot of voter turnout. We don't have all those exact numbers yet, but in the days to come, it will be interesting to see where those numbers fall, possibly a record-breaking or at least topping the midterm elections last time, and to see the clear winner in some of those races versus some of those really tight ones that were kind of nail-biters. Great to see here in Coon Rapids that sort of mix between returning faces to the City Council and some new, as well as familiar faces moving on to new positions. So I think we're going to see a lot of Coon Rapids representation throughout the county.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, like you said, to see what happens. Congratulations to all the winners, of course, and anyone really that runs for office. You know, it's hard work being out there on the campaign trail, doing all that door knocking. Obviously, you need volunteers to make all that work, but you know, they put in a lot of time for something that you don't necessarily know if you're going to win or not.
You really appreciate the commitment from the candidates, particularly here at the local level, that feel very committed to this city and motivated to try to be engaged and make a difference. They, you know, use their time, their money, their friends and family participate in that effort. So you do see in the candidates that we spoke to tonight, as well as their challengers, a real commitment to the future of the city of Coon Rapids and the goals that they have, which is a great thing to see.
Yeah, obviously. Voter turnout, as we talked a little bit about, that is expected to exceed 60%. So I'll be curious to see where that number does wind up. It seemed like there was a lot of interest here with a lot of the stuff going on, even, you know, locally and nationally with, you know, the economy and inflation, women's reproductive rights, the issue of crime, and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see how many people actually turned out. But the one thing we can all be thankful for is that in about an hour or so, or hopefully even right now, all those political ads are no longer on TV.
They're done. They should all be gone by now. You know, there were certainly some very divisive issues, and there is a lot of polarization, you know, all throughout the nation, and that, you know, we're not exempt from that here in Coon Rapids. But it was encouraging to see engagement and participation in the process, and to see that the process seemingly went quite smoothly. All of that is really validating to see, and to know that even though there are some very strong opinions and feelings and divisiveness in some ways, you know, here in Coon Rapids we saw some pretty clear winners, and a lot of hope for the future of, you know, what these candidates, now council members, mayors, hope to instill in their next term, and that there are some good things to come.
All right. Well, and now they can all go take down all those signs too.
A little bit of a clearer drive down the road, won't it be, eventually here, yes.
Exactly. All right, well, I appreciate you being here tonight and talking with our winners and helping us on our coverage. Thank you very much. Again, so here we are, election night. As we wrap up, we'll see 2 new faces on the Coon Rapids City Council starting in 2023. We saw Sean Novak win Ward 3, and then our Ward 5 winner was Brian Armstrong. So both men will be sworn in at the first meeting in January. So we look forward to their service to our community. And then, of course, the 2 big races in the county, the open seat for sheriff and the open seat for county attorney, with both the current sheriff, James Stewart, retiring, along with county attorney Tony Palumbo. So Brad Johnston will be the new county attorney starting next year, and former Coon Rapids Police Chief Brad Wise will become the new Anoka County Sheriff. Well, we appreciate everyone at home watching tonight. Thank you to all our crew that helped us put it on and hang out here tonight with us and wait as the results came in. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here again in 2 years.